Are you looking for something affordable, unique, and fun to give away in your merch orders or at your shows? Look no further. Hit me up today to order 1-inch buttons for your band, label, or other project. High quality metal pinback buttons for your friends and fans' battle jackets, messenger bags, and guitar straps. $40 for 100 buttons, shipping included inside the US. Message me on IG at Everything Remade to get started. Hello, and welcome to Everything Remade, a podcast that I hope is about growth as much as it is about music. I'm Edie Quinn, and we have a great show lined up for you today. Before we get started, though, I'd like to remind you about our Patreon page at patreon.com/humanmachine, where you can go to sign up and support the show, read zines, get music sneak peeks, and so much more. That's patreon.com/humanmachine. And now, I'd like to play something for you. You're hearing Smokescreen by A Horse Named Friday, featuring my new pal Joe El-Deek on guitar and vocals. The song comes from their new album, The Marriage of Loneliness and Continental Bliss, which you can find on Bandcamp now.
I've been using this mouthwash since way before you. Why am I afraid of its taste? Been using this mouthwash since way before you. Hanging ain't hanging without something in our mouths. Hanging ain't hanging if we're sitting in a jar while there's hanging men bathing in holy water. I'm short of life another night. Sit inside to go outside. Sit outside and stay inside a smoke screen. A smoke screen. A smoke screen. A smoke I've been using this mouthwash since way before you. Why am I afraid of its taste?
Music has always been so prevalent in my life by choice because I never had like any um, sort of just like, I never had any major influence from like anybody in my family. Being like first generation immigrant, they they loved listening to music. My family loved listening to music, but no one played, no one really gave me CDs or anything like that. Um, I'd say, I'd say it's because of that, it has always just felt very like something that made me who I am and like different, um, but also what made me feel like accepted, um, and understood.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say like the moment that really made me feel like I need to make music is different than the moment that I realized that I am a musician and like that is who I am. Because for me, it was hard for me to conceptualize like the idea of writing because it was so far away. it was so out of touch for me because I loved music so much and I loved singing so much that like I could never imagine what it would take to like write a song. And like, you know, the silly songs that you make up as a child is not it doesn't make sense to you as real songs. So I think that the moment I realized that I could make music was when I had started listening to Mitski when I was in my uh, last year of high school. And I was studying classical music because I thought that had the only thing that was possible for me to pursue music for my entire life was opera. And I had heard her voice and I had heard this classical sort of influence to her music. And I realized that there's room for me in this whole making music scene
Uh-huh.
and that I'm allowed to do that.
Were you already playing instruments at time, or were you just like you said you were studying?
I was studying vocal music and I had learned some like covers on guitar. I had written songs that didn't seem real to me.
Okay.
Um, it all felt like they were worthless. It felt like everything that I could create was like worthless until I had heard her and I had realized that I could do more.
I'm interested in that, like, um, in that idea that you found your songs lacking, and now that you have, obviously, like not only like written a bunch of songs, but released a bunch of songs that that I'm assuming you're proud of. I mean, I would be proud of them, um, but
Thank you.
um, but like now that you have that distance between what you were doing then and what you're doing now, um, what was it about them that made you feel that way? Was it just like like you said that you came to some kind of understanding by experiencing Mitski's music and evaluating it in that lens, or in that way that you did? Um, was that all it took, or do you still just like kind of remember those songs and you're like, well, they were just uh, I don't know. A lot of our first songs are like copies of other songs, or they're just so rudimentary. But I feel like I'm not asking the question very well. But like, I don't I don't have a problem with any songs that are just rudimentary or basic or however you want to put it. You can tell when there's something there that the artist feels passionate about, right? And that's like the difference, right? So like, what's the difference now that you have this perspective on what you were doing then and what you're doing now?
The difference was the biggest difference I think is my self-worth.
Okay.
And because I attached so much of it to my music, um, that and to like all of music. It felt so vulnerable. It is vulnerable to sing. Anybody knows that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it feels like it's a part of you, right? And at the time, I didn't know who I was, and I didn't know my worth. And I think just like that came with age, truly, and with like a lot of reflecting and listening to music that was about reflecting and learning your worth.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that had like taught me how to learn my own worth, truly. That and some therapy, but
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
but truly, like in terms of when I look back at those songs, they do feel like real songs because they were coming from myself. But I think because of my mind at the time, they were coming from myself, I didn't like them because of that, right? And it
Yeah.
took me a while. It took me, and like honestly, obviously they're not that good. They're rudimentary, like you're saying, but it took a while for me to find like my own sound, even though it is like an amalgamation of everyone that I listen to, really. But it, yeah, there's still something. There's like heart in it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so I don't know, it's so interesting to like, because uh one thing that you said that like tripped a wire for me or what however you want to look at it was you're talking about like the vulnerability in singing songs, and immediately I thought of there's a flip side to that where where people write songs in another voice, in like a third person or whatever, like they play a character in their
Yeah.
songs. And I was like, immediately I was like thinking like, is there a way that that's like not in a competitive way, like this is more valuable because it's, but is there a way that that's like more vulnerable because you know what I'm saying? You're saying, I wish I could just come out and say this or something, and I like,
Hmm.
of course there's some instances where somebody's playing like a villain or something in their song and you hope that's not what they really want to be saying, but like, you know what I mean? Like, I find that really interesting, that idea, like, where we're talking about vulnerability and we're talking about like how these songs can be rudimentary, and like I think there's room for all of that because like there's no such thing as like this is the rules of what music has to be, and so like you know, this brings me into something I was going to talk about way later, but it's like, in the album Feeding that you put out, the album you did, which was a benefit for your friend in Kaza, like, I was like, this is fucking great. Like, I wish more artists did this, which was just like, the I don't know if these were ever going to be songs that people heard, but then there's just little voice memos and stuff, and you're like, this is great. Like, and like that's what I'm getting at, is like, there's no rules, right? Like, um, this is a song. There you go. It's just me talking to my friend or whatever, whatever the particular instance is, and
Yeah.
like it it sounds like it just kind of took you like getting to know yourself better to where you're saying like, yeah, if I want to do this stuff, then I'll do it with my whole chest, and like the results all speak for themselves at this point. But yeah, like just as far as like you're sort of getting from point A to point B, how much time did you spend sort of like ruminating and figuring out and like different projects or things like that, to where you were like comfortable saying like, this is what I sound like?
Truly, it's always going to be a work in progress. I think that that's part of the beauty of the self in art. But I I think, like, if you're asking about my history, I it it was it was the first project that I had where I was kind of, it was called Dreamlike State. It was like an indie rock band. Really, truly, it was an indie rock band with like what I wanted to have, like shoegaze and um, uh, like dream pop influence type of like dreamy stuff.
Uh-huh.
But I I have a habit of uh overwriting, so it didn't really end up like that. But and like in that band, um I had these songs already written and I needed to come up with a band to play with me. So it initially started as that. And, you know, when you show up to people and you're like, also, I was pretty young. I was like 20, I think, 19. I was 19, 20. And I went up to like my friends who had, none of them had been in bands before. And I was like, guys, I need a band. Let's make this happen. Um, and you show up to people and you're like, I have these songs. I want to do something with them. They look to you and they're like, okay, what do you want to do with them? Most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of have to quickly learn to put your pants on and start telling people what to do and speak with your full chest before people feel like they don't know what they're doing and they have no direction, right?
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, what's the word? Like, it's just like learning from experience of like doing that was kind of how I learned to experiment and also like be um vocal about my experimentation. And like I also learned like through performance um that once you're on stage and people are listening to you, um there sorry there is nothing that you can do at that point anymore to like think things through. Like you got to just like perform and like
Yeah.
pull it out of you.
Yeah.
So it's almost like that pressure of performance that I've learned to like let go of in the moment kind of helped me learn how to be in touch with like my creative instinct to then learn how to write and write in ways that felt like natural to me in those moments.
Yeah. Yeah, I honestly like think that from what you were saying about like there's no more time to think this through. I think like that you get in your own way when you try to do that.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
and I don't know. There's so much like there's so many times when I can't put a I can't put like a finger on. I can't say like this is why this is happening or this is why this isn't happening. But there's those times when you just get in that state when you're writing something, and you like you're all just in that like flow or whatever. And I don't know if it's like pressures sometimes that you like you said, you can be in that position where people are looking to you, and you're supposed to produce something for everyone to engage with, like, and perhaps even direct them how to engage with that. And so that pressure can be like prohibitive, but if you go past that, and if you can just like be past that, and you're just doing, then I don't know. That's where you want to be, right? And like no more thought, all gone. Just like reacting to whatever is moving you at the moment. I don't know. Um, I wish I could like explain that better, and I also wish I could like magically tap into that when I chose to. It's
Yeah.
yeah, it's so I don't know. It's like I'm a big like I talk about it all the time. I'm like, the idea that like the muse is just gonna strike you and you're gonna come up with the perfect thing is like it's not that it doesn't happen. It does happen, and but I think that's like it's something you can't rely on, and you have to put in the effort, and you have to do the work or whatever to make things happen. And then once you're there, like I feel like the ball starts rolling, and then the next thing, the avalanche is coming, and you're in your zone or whatever. But like sometimes, like, it's just, yeah, you're really there. And I don't know, like, as far as I've been, like, my thing is, and like lots of artists talk about this in different disciplines or whatever, but if you find yourself there, don't leave. Like, don't do anything else. And that's sort of like, that's
Yeah,
like,
that's how you like stay up until 4 a.m. writing one song.
yeah, because like
Yeah.
yeah, you can, you you can try, like, some other time you can try to get back there and try to get back there and try to get back there, and it's just like you're like yeah, just, you're gonna hate it the next day, but just stay there and finish what you're doing or whatever, but yeah, um I think that, like, you know there's like there's a parallel there for like what you were talking about before, where you felt like your songs weren't real yet, and like how we're saying, like, that, thinking these things through is our way of getting in our own way. But then you were also saying that you feel like you overwrite. Now, what did you mean by that?
Oh, sometimes it's mostly just like something happens and I'm like, oh, actually, I don't like that way. And then, or I feel like I have all this inspiration that I like, or these like ideas that I want to come to fruition that I feel like do feel very valid and like to my core. But sometimes it's hard to tell when it is like overwriting or when it's not, right? That's kind of what I mean. And I do think, like, in general, there is a place for thinking, right? There has to be.
Mm-hmm.
It I learned this from one of my bandmates, one of my old drummer for Horse. He'd always say it's just a balance of ego.
Okay.
And that's, to me, that makes so much sense, because it's like you have to learn when you need to be hard on yourself just a little and have discipline and think things through when that feels right.
Yeah.
And then when that's not feeling right, that means then you have to, those are the moments that feel like you need to let go. And when neither of those feel right, maybe you should take a break.
Time is a place I can go to when I want to, when I want to. Fast or slow, hold on or let go. It's in my control. It's in time, on time, with time, through time, in time, on time, in time, through time. Brush your teeth and wash your face and put things back in their place and make some tea and count to 10, 'cause you're not where you were then, but remember where you came from, no matter where you came time, through time, in time, on time, in time, through time. Nothing can make you happy. Nothing can make you sad. Nothing can.
When you're talking about like overwriting and like thinking and and like, we're both saying like, yeah, like you're in, when you start thinking about it too much, then you're missing something. And it's like at the same time, like we just recorded a new album, and there was this bit that I'm trying to work in where I'm like, I basically had this concept, which is like, it's really mathematic, like, and it's not like, it's like I have like the four pieces to make this thing, but I don't have the thing that makes it good music. Like it's just an equation at this point, and I'm trying to show it to my bandmates, and they're sort of like, they're with me, that they're like, it's almost there. I just don't. And it's like at the same time, what I'm presenting is sort of just makes me sound like this is absurd. Like what you're, it's just so strange or whatever. And it's, there's always this struggle that I'm having when I'm writing music, where some of it comes so naturally that I feel like it's like I'm cheating or something. Like some of it comes so
Yeah.
naturally that you're like, that doesn't, it's, I got to do something, because that was too, it can't be this. People talk about, I worked on these songs for 2 years, and like I wrote an entire album in like an hour. So like, like how's that work? And I mean, like, I'll interrupt myself right there, because there's no such thing as writing in a whole album in an hour, right? The thing
Yeah.
is, like, I sat down with the guitar and I demoed the guitars for the entire album in 1 hour. That's the truth. But the thing is, and this is like something that people don't usually talk about, is like those things were bouncing around in my head for a year. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
every time you pick up a paintbrush, you're painting that perfect painting that people love every single time. And so
Yeah.
that's the thing that
I have
people don't think about, right?
I have such a way of thinking that's so similar to that when it comes to writing, that I often tell people whenever they're like, "Oh, I want to write," and I'm like, "Well, I feel like everything you write is actually just one continuous song, and it's just like this stream of like consciousness that you have, and like it can be it can come back in reprises, or it can like just float in and then leave and then not come back again, but like it all like adds up, and it like creates this huge like composition of your
Yeah,
life."
yeah. And I've actually said that before, something similar, to where it's like, when I obviously, I try not to do this, but sometimes like this part that I wrote like in 2010 will absolutely find its way into a song in 2026 or whatever, right? And I'm just
Yeah.
like, the thing is, like, if I'm like, if it just keeps happening, like that, I mean, and I don't mean keeps happening like I've done it 10 times or whatever. I mean, but if I'm working on this thing and I keep coming back to that one thing, and oh, that's real similar to that one thing, then I just must not be done with it yet. And I'm okay with that. Like I wasn't done with it.
Mhm.
And yeah, like you're talking about like reprisals and you know and things like that. Like um I have like a weird rule for like this particular project, which I've not had with other projects and probably won't with other projects. But I have a weird rule with this project where I won't re-record songs, but like I said, I will straight up just be like, yeah, that one part like is pretty similar to this, but it really goes here and I can't I can't seem to get around it. So that's fine. Um and I don't know, I just think that like yeah, it does really come back to that like, you know, that and that idea just like in life that you know who you are and what you create therefore by extension is like a sum of your experiences and the things that you know you've been through or that you've like been a part of. So I don't know, yeah, it's a really sort of like nonsensical in cap to that I thought, I guess. But you have like when I was talking about like I personally like for this project, and I've done this in many other projects, I've re-recorded songs because they didn't turn out or that they changed or whatever. But in this project, you have several versions of songs that ended up on the album. And like some of I feel like some of it is like okay, well there's an obvious reason because like now there's like different musicians, there's more accompanying parts, you know, and et cetera, et cetera. But like um is that is that like sort of part of it, like how you're saying like that this is all like a continuing like tapestry of your output and stuff? Is that why you're like do you feel more or less inclined because of that philosophy to like revisit and rework some of these things? And like you know the biggest one I can think of course is Mad Scientist. Like go
Hmm.
what's your process as far as that? Is it just like the song keeps evolving or you know there's a different way we can approach that, or is it some of all of these things?
Well, that song in particular, the concept is very based around the lyrics, um, of it kind of just being different every time. I want that, like, because the recorded version on the album was a live recording. Obviously, the recorded version, the demo versions were also like live off the floor. Um, Actually, I'm not sure. Maybe that one was whatever. We had like maybe like one or two tracks that needed to be like recorded after, but most of it was like full band. We're playing them. We're playing this together, right?
Hmm.
And that's like because like I wanted to really hone down that feeling of like looseness and the beauty of like creativity and like changing and also kind of the sucky parts of it.
Okay.
But well, just because like you can't get it exactly the way you want it. Sometimes there's some flubs and sometimes it kind of sounds a little out of place, but that's like that's beautiful, right?
Yeah.
In its own world. When it comes to like all the other songs that we've released that are on this album, it is pretty much just like a for these songs in particular, I always wanted it to be this big album. I wanted it to be this big sound. So I spent a lot of time demoing and trying to figure out what the best arrangement would be. And I also, life gets in the way, right? So, um, I left for like a summer. I was tree planting. I'm not doing that again, but I left for that summer and I came back and I kind of had a different outlook, a different outlook on things. I also started listening to one of my favorite artists of all time now, Hemlock, who has done these song a day challenges multiple times. And I think she's almost at a full year of them compiled over like a couple of years uh, for like different months, right? And so she does this thing where every day she records a song either on her phone through like some sort of microphone with whoever's around her. It can be a little like hum tune, it could be a little instrumental thing, it could be like a full fledged song, but they're more demo-y type songs. And then after some time, uh, she gathers a couple of them and then makes either an EP or an album with them. And I was so inspired by that because of what we discussed before, how quickly you can feel like you've written a whole album. Um, and also the beauty in every stage of the artwork. I find like there's so much joy in hearing different versions of songs. And um, I also knew that this was everything else that came out before was demos. So it wasn't going to sound anything like the big studio recordings of them.
Mm.
So I knew that it would be different enough that people who are really interested in them and really like the songs would go back and be able to listen to them all. But it's also just like a way of like keeping people posted on what I'm doing. Like I don't want to be this mysterious musician that's like just like spent like 2 years like not doing anything and then boom, all of a sudden there's an album. Like I've been trying to do this for so
Yeah.
long, right? And it takes so long, especially when it's your first time doing it. Like I don't know what I'm doing. I've never released anything like of studio value to me, of studio like quality, right? I wanted the first studio quality thing I released to be a full album, and that was like a stupid decision to do, especially in this day and age in DIY music. But it felt important to me because it felt like these songs were worth it
Hmm.
in a way. And I don't know who's to say what, but like sometimes you just got to go with your gut, and that's what I wanted. So
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot to be said about the way that different people choose to approach like their sort of like not introduction, but like this is our first major thing. Sometimes it's just like sometimes, especially in DIY, and especially if you get into the more like punk and hardcore stuff, it's like, well, you got to do like a demo first. I'm like, I'm at this point, I'm like, the thing is like, I've I've written and released like 1,000 or more songs at this point. Like what does that even mean, demo, to me? Like what does that even mean? Like I don't.
yeah, everything's kind of a demo. You can re-record things all you want.
Yeah, or it's just like or none of it is cuz I already knew what I was going for and do you know what I mean? Like to me demo sometimes has the connotation that like it's like we're just figuring this out. And like there's nothing obviously nothing wrong with that. It's like if it's four people and they get together and they're like we're going to sound like, you know, we're going to sound like Primus and they start out and they're trying to sound like Primus and they probably don't, but it's like that's what they sound like. And then once they start playing together they write an album and it doesn't sound like the thing anymore. Like, that's logical because, and that's like, that was the demo because they were feeling this out. But like, I'm like, I've been doing this for a long time. So sometimes I'm just like, well, I was, you know, like I put on some Discharge and I played blast beats and I played the guitar real fast. I kind of knew what I was going for. It's like, why do a demo, you know? So, so like, you know, I don't think there's anything wrong with either thing. Is what I'm trying to say. You know, it's like you can be like, I know what I want, and it's this big like full album thing, and that's what I really want to do. And like maybe I should have did like this or that first, you know, or but it's like, you know, I don't think there's a wrong way to like put yourself out there. Probably like, you know, there's a probably for the sake of like marketing or whatever, there's all these formulations that you should be doing or not doing to, you know, get yourself the most attention or success, you know. But it's like, what is all that going to mean in the long run if you're not happy with how you did things, right? So I don't know. The other thing that I think was really interesting, and I'm going back to Mad Scientist again, is so before the album dropped yesterday, as of the time of this conversation, I believe, you had 2 singles out, and Mad Scientist was one of them, and it's like a 7-minute track. So that's like usually like you'll be like, yeah, okay, these 2 singles, they got to be sort of the distilled version of like, this is what, like, we want people to get a taste of this and come back for it. But you're like, no, fuck it, here's the 7-minute track. Like, you either like it or you don't. Was that the whole thing? You either like it or you don't? Or was it like, we're giving you like, was it like, this is the sort of thesis for the album as a whole, and if you're down with that, you're gonna love the rest of it? Like, what was the thoughts there?
You know, I wish there was more creative thought behind it.
It was just like, we like the song.
It was more like a. I always wanted Mad Scientist to be one of the singles, because I felt like it seems like such a sorry. It feels like good representation of what we are about and what like I feel like how I want to be kind of perceived, right? Like, I want people to know that it's not all just this pretty arranged, like, shiny thing. I want it to be honest and rough in a lot of places. And I felt like that song being amongst the singles felt like honest and like kind of showing people what we're about, like exactly what you said. But it also was like in honesty, real truth. I had planned to do 2 others for the singles initially, so it was going to be like 4 singles, and it was kind of a timing thing, and like we wanted to have like visuals to go along with all the singles that came out. I wanted to have visuals that came along with all the singles, and realistically the only ones that we could afford the time and money for were Smokescreen and Mad Scientist, because it was a live off the floor recording, so we just like recorded ourselves playing it in our basement and recorded what we did throughout the day.
Oh, not every find a new place to call my own, to unwind, take space, and cry in of what I once known. When I find out what I don't.
There's a takeaway that I had from it, and this could be completely off base, but in my head canon, I enjoyed this idea. So tell me if this occurred to you at all. But there is like you're at like with Mad Scientist in particular, because the intro is like it's like it unwinds in its own time. And like I feel like what it's saying to you is like settle in and like give us the time to make this worth your while. And if you say, you know, you if you look at the song and you're like, this is a 7-minute song, and you're like, I'm gonna give this 7 minutes, then it is worth your while. And like, is there a part of that where you're like, basically like, yeah, if you want this to just hit you over the head and like make you feel something, then listen to something else. But if you're here for this, like, then be here for it. There, is there a part of you that's like sit in this with us?
A good question. I think from how it feels to have played that song live, which is always fun. I think there is a part of me that hopes that people will listen, and it just feels like one of those songs, like it's like listening, it's like how I felt when I listened to like Godspeed for the first time,
Mm-hmm.
where I was like, I need to like close my eyes and like sit down and just like take it in.
Mm-hmm.
And I always wanted to like do something like that because I feel like it's such a intimate experience, and I want to be an outlet for other people to feel that through, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think there is a part of me that wants people to just like sit and think, and listen, and with it, if that's what they want, because there is like so much room on this album to like. There's like a couple short songs. I have a tendency to run my mouth, truly, but that song was mostly created because like I had a friend that told me like, you can, if you want, you can just have one chord. Your song could just be one chord, and it can be like however long you want it to be, and that's it. And I had this idea in my head over and over and over again that I was going to write a song with one chord, and it ended up being two, but
Mm-hmm.
uh, mostly one. And it just felt like it needed to be I needed to have room to breathe because it felt like those lyrics and the time that I was exploring, and I was learning how to create just in new ways and also change because I was in a pretty tough spot in my life and I was trying to be better, really, and trying to accept myself through these like disgusting parts of myself. And yeah, I don't know. It's a that that song has a lot of feel to it. There's a lot of story to it for sure.
Yeah.
So I don't tend to think about it in how I want it to be perceived, to be honest. Um,
Yeah. I I think that the fact that it's called Mad Scientist is really interesting now because you're maybe I'm reading different things into it than you mean to put out there, but like you know you're finding all these different like formulas for making these things work for you, whether it's music or your position in your own life and things like that. And it really like the it lends itself to the way that you've described the alchemical sort of nature of the performance, even, and that
hmm.
it's
Yeah,
always an experiment in a way. Um,
that's exactly it. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but
No, no.
I really feel like um, it also is it's reminiscent of my childhood um, from when I used to play. Uh, like I would literally play like mad scientist with my friends
Yeah.
uh, and my pseudo cousins, which family friends, whatever.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, yeah, of course. Like you have like the blue liquid and you have the other cup and you and you've got like some dirt and whatever you're pouring one thing into the other. I mean, I've certainly been there. But yeah,
yeah,
it is
and sorry,
no, I go ahead.
I just and that has always been what I feel as if like music is a lot of the time. And I think it's kind of like going back to where our conversation was when we were like, music is you and it's like authentic. My music is like supposed to be like honest. But I think that there is always a sense of uh, pretending and play in yourself that like you need to reflect on in art because it's outside of you and it's not yours anymore once it's gone.
Yeah.
And there is a aesthetic to that no matter what. And that doesn't mean that has that it's like it's not your activation of like the self and like your activation uh of joy. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, no, 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 I totally agree. It's it's there's so much like there's so much to be said about like that and it's there's always this um it's not even a duality. There's like more to it than that. It's bigger than that. There's so many. It's like just this huge circle of smoke and fluids or whatever that's going around where you're like you said, you're being honest, but you're being playful. You're doing this as a part of a community. You're in a room with your friends, with your peers, but you're also by yourself when you're doing it. you're creating it with other people, but you're also creating it like by yourself to an extent, because when when you're performing, you can go to that place that's just like just you on a on a plateau somewhere, where like this other part of you just takes over, and the voice is out there and it's almost not yours anymore.
Mhm.
Like all these things are true at the same time. And it's we're talking before about, and this is like going back to that like one chord thing, and music can be anything thing, but also in relation to what you're talking about, where sometimes you know um people are like people some people want your input on what they should be doing during like the songs, and some people don't. But like there's an instance that I'm thinking of right now where I wrote and recorded an album entirely by myself, and now the band is like, well, we've been playing like one of the songs, but we're about to play another one of the songs, and the other guitar player, she's gonna play like the quote unquote like hard part, because I can't play it and sing it at the same time. And it's funny because like I hadn't thought about it in a long time, but I was going through and I was like, oh shit, like the song is like a minute and a half long, and she literally plays one thing the whole time. It's like one thing. It's a little bit tricky, but it's not that tricky. But it's like it the song doesn't feel like it's one thing the whole time, but it is. And it made me like wonder like how in regards to like Mad Scientist specifically, how much like direction did you give the other folks that were performing with you when you're like, yeah, I'm more or less going to be playing like this one or two things this whole time, and we're going to take it these different places, but like how much were you like, this is kind of what I got in mind for you, this is kind of, or how much was it just like, yeah, you're not really in that place anymore, and everybody kind of just like feels it out.
That song in particular, I definitely gave the least amount of direction.
Okay.
Like in terms of like verbal direction, um, I think the thing that I cared the most about for that song was the feeling that we are all doing this together and we're playing off of each other.
Uh-huh.
So it took like a couple practices to like get it right, but I felt like if we over practiced it wouldn't be as like playful, right?
Yeah, you would start
Um,
recognizing how what you might consider a success, and
mhm,
so you're treading that same ground, as opposed to,
totally.
yeah, yeah, you like, let's not get
And
to know it too well in a way.
yeah, yeah. And it there was just like one or two spots that I had like pretty specific direction on like swelling and lingering or like dropping off. And then also like the big ending, obviously,
Hmm.
um, that I I wanted, but like for exactly what they were playing, I think it was mostly the drums that I wanted to have a pretty specific emphasis on. Just some, just like the regular, the as like to play along with like what the guitar is really doing,
Sure.
um, in terms of rhythm, at the ending. But besides that, it's mostly just like sporadic like cymbal uh, bowing and uh, blah, 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 those things. Why am I
Yeah,
forgetting the
yeah.
name?
I mean, you were more or less like,
Mallets.
yeah, the
Yeah, yeah.
momentum was what you were like
Hmm.
like
In swells.
yeah, yeah. Like
So it was kind of we were all looking at each other, and I would often play and like move my body in order to like give people cues, and I try to do it differently as much as I can. Um, yeah,
yeah, that's awesome. Um now like um the
thank
album's
you.
out and you're getting ready to go out on like it looks like it's like one tour, but it's kind of like two tours in a way or
Yeah, it's like an album release weekend and then like a tour.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
And the dates were all in, so are you going like well like east once and then west, or how did you separate that?
We're it's just like around like Southern Ontario, so we're doing the Toronto, Hamilton, and um, uh, Kitchener this weekend, and then next month we're gonna go out east and just come back, and that's it.
Okay. Um
Yeah.
what's that, was that like, was that hard to put together? Like is what is the sort of like, as far as like, you know, gas and everything, like what is like the, like is touring like really tough in Canada right now? Like I'm not sure like if it's better or worse, like you know what, like with everything that's going on, like was it harder or just about the same as any other time you've been booking shows?
Um, the weekender is pretty easy because it's all
Just right around.
close by.
Yeah.
And but and like places we've played a million times, but it's definitely going to be hard. This We haven't toured since last year. Like no, it was the year before that, wasn't it? It was like not last November, but the November before that. We haven't gone like all the way to. I guess we did go to Montreal last April, but anyway, we haven't really toured in a while since like the gas prices have like skyrocketed. Um, and we will be like so low on money because we spent so much
Yeah.
on this album.
Yeah.
Uh, we're hoping to break even.
Yeah.
Um, and that's kind of how it's been. And I'm pretty sure that's how it goes for everyone else around here. Especially out east, it's because it's a lot of driving. It's like we're gonna have like multiple days where it's like a full day of driving, like 14 hours of driving.
Yeah, that's wild. That's
Because it's so far. Like this country is so huge.
uh-huh.
If we want to actually go anywhere, it takes so much time.
Yeah.
But we all wanted to go out east because it really felt like the Maritimes really feel like they're very folky. It's a very folky
Oh,
place.
okay.
It's right by the ocean. Um, so it and the it just it fits very much with how I feel like the album flows. So it felt right to go there first. Um, and yeah, I've always wanted to see what's going on out there. So we're just hoping to break even, sleeping on a bunch of people's couches and guest beds, and um, hopefully things go well.
Yeah. It's I realize like I'm like sounds like the weirdest question, but it's like I have a couple friends who've like just been on tour like so much this year already, and I'm like, how are you doing that? That's wild.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I've always heard that about Canada as well, where it's just like, you know, the spots where you really want to play are so far from each other, and we experience that in the States. Like when we start going out west, it's like from Texas to California is like just like four of the most like haggard drives that you can imagine. It's like 14 to 16, 18 hours, each day,
Mhm.
like you were talking about. And it's like damn, but yeah, I hope you have a great time out there. I never really thought it's so wild because like when you go to the East Coast in the States, that's like the big cities,
Yeah.
and and you're like it's so folksy out there, and I'm like yeah, that never occurred to me that it might be that way because like that's where like I mean I think like in any kind of folk or punk or whatever kind of music that is like countercultural, like you don't want to be in places like Montana or Utah necessarily, like
Yeah.
in the states. But that's like the Midwest is kind of like or you're getting not quite Midwest anymore, but like when you get over there, that's like the vibe that you're describing, where it's like, yeah, this is more like folksy feeling, and when we go out east, it's like huge skyscrapers and everything like that. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, that's where we are really is I mean like closest thing
right,
you can really get to it for Canada, right? So um we're really lucky to like be musicians in Southern Ontario because like if we wanted to, we could have done a way bigger tour, but just of Southern Ontario. Like and it would have been nice, but like it's where we live, so it's kind of
yeah,
like it gets old and there's like different places to go, but it gets old and there there is like a huge risk with being like queer out there. There's a lot of old people, there's a lot of old fashioned people.
mm-hmm.
um I've never been out there, so but from what I've heard there is some yucky people, but hoping that we we surround ourselves with other fellow punks and other like DIY musicians, so
Mm-hmm.
you can only really get what you get when you're around those kinds of people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
The strength in numbers, that's the the
totally.
the idea. um so yeah, your Ontario weekend will already be wrapped up by the time this airs, but where exactly, like what are your tour dates for that next step of your, like where the actual tour starts?
Um, so for the out east tour,
Yeah, yeah.
uh, we are starting it on the 9th in Ottawa, and then the 10th in Montreal, and then yada yada. I look at the
Go
I
go
could look
check
at the
out
thing.
the dates, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So it starts on May
So
9th in Ottawa.
yeah, not until May 9th. So we have quite a bit of time. Um,
Uh-huh.
yeah, May 9th in Ottawa, then May 10th in Montreal, and then we have to do like 2 days of driving. And like we're gonna have like a rest day in between. Uh, and then we're playing Moncton, New Brunswick, in on May 12th, and then another like day off, and then May 14th, Buffalo Club in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, and then May 15th, Charlottetown, PEI, and then May 16th, Fredericton, New Brunswick. And we're coming back.
And is it a straight drive back for you all, like with obviously just like stops here and there to rest or whatever?
Yeah, we
Um,
have to do one stop in Montreal
what
to
is that
rest.
like from as far as you're going from your last date to back to where you live? What's the number on that?
That's going to be 2 days of driving, um, with like full driving. So it'll be kind of annoying. But
Yeah,
if
that's rough.
Yeah. But we might, if we like are losing it, we might end up having one more day of rest.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you have any plans for your days off? Like, do you have like, oh, we're doing it in this city because there's this cool thing to do, or anything like that? Or
yeah, we're planning on having one of our days off in Halifax, which is like right beside Dartmouth, I believe. Which is like the capital of Nova Scotia.
okay,
Um, uh, so it's like the city. Um, and it's on the ocean, so it's like we're hoping to like go to a beach and just like that's all we have planned really. And like
no, that sounds awesome.
stay at friends' houses. Uh, we have everything locked in quite yet.
Yeah, we
Soon, very soon.
we always like have these like beach days, and then we have a show that night and we feel like shit at the show. So it's like
Mhm.
to have just a day where it's always like it's like, oh, awesome, we're gonna go to the beach, and then it's like, you know you got too hot all day, and then you go into a basement and you get too hot again, and you're like, wow. It was,
Yeah,
I mean, it was worth it. And you won't feel, you like the good time you have, like you'll never like worry about how shitty you felt. You always just remember how much fun you had. But
yeah,
like at the time you definitely feel it. But so it's better to, yeah, you just have that time, and you get to go and do, and then just sleep it off. But yeah, so the album is called The Marriage of Loneliness and Continental Bliss, and it's out, and people can pick it up on your Bandcamp. I hope your tour goes great. Is there anything that you wanted to chat about that we didn't chat about?
I I don't think I have anything on my mind like right now. I'm in the car on the way back from picking up the physical.
Oh, that's what you're doing right now. That's awesome.
Yeah,
So you're on your way and you've got them.
yeah, we have them.
And
I haven't even I have they're right behind me. I haven't even opened up the CD packet yet.
oh no, I'm keeping you from your baby. I'm so sorry. Um, well,
No, no.
I've had
I'm
a great time.
enjoying it.
Yeah, I've had a great time chatting with you. So, but I will let you go, and you can check that out. Um,
Yeah, thank you so much.
and that was my conversation with Joe El-Deek. Thank you so much, Joe, for taking the time to chat with me. I had a really nice time. Thanks to all of y'all for listening wherever you are as well. Don't forget to stop by patreon.com/humanmachine to see what we've got going on over there. And until next time, take care and do good things.